Hello, my name is Jackie Geringer McDermott, and we're recording live from the English Valley History Center. It's February 7th, 2026. The first thing I'd like to tell you about today is the Lockridge fundraiser party that they're having. This will be down at the Main Street Pub and Grub on Saturday, February 28th. Be sure to look for advertising about this. They're going to have guest bartenders. From 12 to 2, they will have a kid-friendly lunch party. And then that night, from 9 to 1 a.m., they will have DJ Spike on the mic. They'll have a live auction during the DJ, and all day long on the Lockridge page, they will have a silent auction. Look for more information about this coming soon. My name is Jackie Geringer McDermott. This diary was written by Libby Wade. She was my dad's great aunt, and her full name was Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade. She is 75 years old in September of 1950. And here is a picture of Lib. September 21st, 1950. Another foggy morning. Rained in the night, but I don't think very much. Was lightning for quite a while. Heard later on the radio that Waterloo got 4 inches of rain. At Independence, 6 inches. And Eldora, 8 inches. Lots of damage done. Some roads closed as bridges are washed away. Jenny was up. She put curtains in the back room and did some other things. The floor paint is not entirely dry, so we'll have to wait. Jenny Wade is Lib's daughter-in-law, the wife of her oldest son, Wayne or Perky Wade. Heard on the noon news of the death of William Hazard, Jr., age 24 of Parnell. A car accident not far from Marengo. He died of a spinal injury in the Marengo Hospital. He was the baby I had care of, he and his mother Gertrude. Tracy was in this forenoon. She is going tomorrow to visit her brother at Cincinnati, Iowa, and over into Missouri to visit other relatives. Tracy Wallace was my paternal great-grandmother. She and her first husband, James Riley Geringer, were born just over the Missouri border. The weather has changed, much cooler this p.m. May Rohr is in the telephone central in Parnell now. September 22nd, 1950, cloudy and cool. I had some trouble lighting the oil burner. Don is too busy to clean the stove today, but we'll be up sometime soon. The electricians are here to put up wiring for the stove we are to get. Don that she's talking about might have been Don Hall. He was a jack of all trades and the owner of O.D. Hall Appliance. Here's a picture of him. And here's the appliance store. That was down on Main Street. Dr. Miller stopped in and gave me another cold shot. Number 4. He will come again in 4 weeks. He said the new babies and their mothers went home yesterday from Minnie's. Dr. L.A. Miller Sr., or Old Doc, was our beloved town doctor for many years and was making a house call to Lib's house. Since there was no HIPAA at that time, he could also tell Lib the news about the new babies born across the street at Minnie Zomer's private nursing home. One of those babies born this week in 1950 was Kathy Kaiser O'Rourke. And here's a picture of Minnie Zomer, who lived across the street and kept the mothers and their babies in her home. This picture came from her step-grandson Robert Moffett and his wife Suzanne Moffett. Thank you again to their daughter Diane for helping me acquire this picture. Mary R. stopped in as she went to Edith's for her hairdo. Mary Regseger was Lib's neighbor across the street, and she had been very ill. Well, she actually lives down the street in the house where Donahue's lived for many years. She has been very ill but is now better and is walking uptown to get her hair done. She is in the back right corner of this picture along with her late husband, Fred Regseger. And she was going to Edith's shop to get her hair done. Edith Brooke was the hairdresser who had her shop uptown. Hattie came over. This is Levon's 23rd birthday. Leona has a supper planned for him. Aunt Jenny is still there. Mark and Esther were down a few days ago. Esther is not satisfied about the settling of the estate. She talked pretty wild, but maybe feels better now. Hattie Newberry Killian is Lib's friend who runs a boarding house in her home on Boland Avenue a block away. Her nephew and his wife, Levon and Leona Bursler, live with her and will later own this same house. They are in the back left in this picture. And I always got to mention that my mother's in the front row with the long dress sitting on the knee of Mr. Morse.
Charlie.
No, not Charlie. Another one. Jenny Harper is Hattie's aunt. And on the back left in this picture, she lives out of state since her husband died, but has been back visiting. And Mark and Esther Newberry are Hattie's brother and his wife that were visiting. Russell worked up at the elevator today, unloading coal. After supper, Maud came up and spent the evening. Ray went to Kyoto to a football game. Russell Wade is Lib's youngest son, and she lives in his house with him. He works at the Home Lumber Company a block away, doing manual labor and driving a truck. Ray and Maud Claypool were neighbors who live a half a block away, and Ray is Lib's nephew. Ray works as a janitor at the school. Russell rested a while and then went uptown. He is full of coal dust. Dean and Harold and another are in Ohio attending a vets reunion in Cincinnati. Dean Claypool is Ray's younger brother, and they are the sons of Lib's brother, Verner, and his wife, Minnie Claypool. Harold Claypool is Lib's great-nephew, the son of Verner's son, Leighton or Happy Claypool, and his wife, Gertie Claypool. September 23rd, 1950. Nicer today. Was cold this morning, but the sun is shining, and it is some warmer. Frost is predicted for tonight in north part of the state. Jenny was up a while and then went to town. She got her cold shot, brought the mail. Had a letter from Anna. Arlen is still home, has had vaccinations, etc., and expects to go to the Navy soon. Everett is home. He is in bad shape though, but can get around some by himself. Anna Cray is Lib's married daughter who lives in Texas with her husband Richard Cray. Their son Arlen is ready to enter the Navy. This picture is from a few years later. Arlen is the groom, and his parents are to the right of him. Everett, that Anna is talking about in that letter, is Everett Curl, her uncle. Everett is Lib's brother-in-law, as he is married to Bessie Wade. They live in Texas near Anna's family, and Everett was recently badly injured in a vehicle accident in Iowa, although he has now returned home to Texas. The Girl Scouts are selling poppies today. Mary Newhouse was in a few minutes after dinner. Mary Newhouse is Lib's 71-year-old neighbor who often stops by to give Lib the latest news. Mark Kolosik is buying the Bernard Agnew place where Harold and Beth lived. He wants $10,000 for it. Lots of money, I think. Harold Holmes was here a while in the PM. His brother Gene was with him but didn't come in. Pete Aldridge's boys were along too. Harold wanted some grapes, but we don't have any to spare. Have promised to the girls. He said he got $2,750 when he sold the place in town. Harold Holmes was married to Lib's niece, Beth Mall Holmes. They used to live in North English but moved to Kyoto. Beth was also very close to Aunt Lib, as her mother had been gone for many years. Evelyn came in the evening. She brought a birthday present. Haven't opened it yet. A purse, she said. Evelyn Kurtz is Lib's young married granddaughter. September 24th, 1950, Sunday. Russell was so tired he slept until I had dinner ready. He then took the laundry over to Lila's and came back, and we went for a car ride. We went out to Yankee Point to see where the church had been, and then on to Parnell to see where they took it. Lila Hardy Cobb is the mother of Glenn Cobb, and she does Lib and Russell's laundry now that Lib is no longer able to do it herself. She's in the back left corner of this picture, and Glenn Cobb, her son, is married to Lib's granddaughter, Hazel. We stopped at Bertha and John's a few minutes and then went to Otis's. Lyle and Leora and their children were there, and Charlie's wife and baby. Bertha and John Geringer were my grandparents, and they were back out living in the country at Yankee Point, north and east of North English. Bertha is Lib's niece. Otis Claypool is my grandma Bertha's Geringer's brother, and he is Lib's nephew. His wife was Pearl Polton Claypool. Their daughter was Leora Woodard, and her husband was Lyle. Their children were Donnie Woodard and his sister Joanne Ritchie, and their younger sister Nedra Doan. Otis and Pearl's son Charlie Claypool was married to Cordell Brown Claypool, and their baby was named Gary also. Then when we started home, we went out to see the church. It is on the place where we lived at one time. Will look very nice when painted and walks are in. It has a nice vestibule like it had. And here's a picture of the Yankee Point church that was bought by the Mennonites and moved to Parnell in 1950. Lib used to live in Parnell with her son Wayne and their family and his wife, so she knows where the place was at. There was a robbery in Parnell last night, Carney's Cafe. Something over $40 in cash taken and some other things. The sheriff was there today. We came back past Millard's. They came out for a little while. He don't look very good yet to me. Flossie is going to work at the Marengo seed corn plant and drive from Millard's. Millard Claypool is the son of Lib's cousin Wallace Claypool. Millard and his wife Mary Molly Cheney Claypool live in the Yankee Point neighborhood, and Millard has been very sick for a long time, but they came out to the car to see Lib. Their daughter Flossie Claypool West and her young school-age daughter Barbara West are living with her parents. Flossie has a new job at the Marengo seed corn plant and is on the left in this picture, taken after this when she worked at the telephone office in North English. Russell mowed the yard this evening, had supper, and went away. I wrote to Anna. Mr. Ernie Weimer came today to live at Hattie's. He looks quite feeble. Ernie Weimer is almost 85 years old and has come to town to live at the boarding house of Lib's neighbor Hattie Killian. He is shown in this picture on the right with his daughter Maggie Wade, his grandson Francis or Pete Wade, and his great-granddaughter Karen Wade. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes to keep the History Center operating. This includes cataloging of sessions, creating displays, coordinating and preparing for monthly programs, responding to requests for family and community histories, keeping up the social media, finances, cleaning, maintenance, and providing treats for programs. There's a whole lot more activity that supports the center operations, and it is largely contributed to the time and effort by the board of directors and volunteers. The History Center board is composed of Dave Jackson, president, Scott Romine, vice president, Bonnie Romine, secretary, Don Banning, treasurer, and directors Carolyn Elwood, Shelley Gerard, Alan Ackerman, and Dan Best. Please send donations to the English Valley History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa 52316. Scott Romine recently reshared this picture on his Facebook page. It is the first basketball team from English Valley High School in 1959, when North English, South English, Webster, and Kinross all merged. In the picture are, in the back row, Coach Thompson, Ned Cassidy, Leo Ott, Dean Reese, Frank Murch III, Bob Vercondi, Gary Aldridge, and Coach Jack Elgin. In the front row from left are Bill Grove, Richard Weingarten, Les Williams, Pat O'Rourke, John Reese, Lonnie Rogers, and Gary Hollingsworth. I had a great day last Saturday at the English Valley's History Center, and we had lots of visitors that day. Please see the English Valley's History Center Facebook page for some photos of that day. Afterwards, Brother Lou Geringer and I went to the Main Street Pub and Grub for a sandwich. Suzanne Moffett was there with her daughter Diane. I asked her if she had a picture of Minnie Zomer, who was regularly featured on the Diaries of Lib Wade. She said yes, she did, because Minnie Zomer and her second husband, Loren Moffett, were at her wedding. Loren Moffett was the grandfather of her husband, Robert Moffett. And here are the bride, Suzanne Miller Moffett, and the groom, Robert Moffett, greeting Minnie Patterson Zomer Moffett and her second husband, Loren Moffett, in 1959. We also had a wonderful visit with John Hall and his wife Mona at the Pub and Grub. John was also mentioned in the Diaries of Lib Wade last week. And we have great news. We have located the 1970 graduating class, big class composite from English Valley's High School. We look for it to be arriving someday soon. Sherry Lockridge Moffett donated this picture from 1939 from the North English Grade School 4th grade. The children are identified as the back row from left. Leon Miller, Lee Carter, Wendell Newberry, Joanne Churchill, Iva Wyant, Bud McGuire, and Robert Worrell. Front row from left, Jim Lockridge, Clifton Evans, Alana Moyer, Alberta Claypool, Joanne Magoon, Joanne Harris, Beulah Wyant, and Lorraine Claypool. I found it interesting that Joanne Churchill Harris and Iva Wyant Glandon, the two girls in the back row, were both at the English Valley Care Center and passed away in 2022. And in the front row, Alberta Claypool Kaufman, who is fourth from the left, and Joanne Harris Geringer, who was on the other side of the blonde next to her, remained lifelong friends until their recent passing. This is a reminder that the next alumni luncheon group will meet at the Main Street Pub and Grub in North English in April. Please contact Linda Holden Carter or Alice Flooring Stramer for reservations when the time approaches. And here is a list of programs that will be featured at the History Center in 2026. For more information, you could join the English Valley's History Center Facebook page or do a pause on this screen if you are watching YouTube.
Hi, guys.
Hola.
Correspondence. Mark Claypool said, "Jackie, so nice to see a picture of my grandmother Gertie." Another memory is of Frank Mullen. He always sat on the bench outside the cafe and would constantly tease me, only to give me a piece of beech nut gum. Thanks again for today. And Mark Claypool's here with us again today. We're glad to see him too. Now is our feature story, the Kenneth or Jonie and Hazel Lockridge story. I have been looking for pictures for a while now for a story on the Smoky Row kids. I lived on Smoky Row or East Washington Street from the age of 1 to 8 and stayed in contact with the kids down there because we only moved up over to the hill behind Casey's. Dave Jackson was talking to Sherry Moffett, and she sent him some pictures of some Smoky Row kids from a much earlier than I can remember. These would be the children of Kenneth or Jonie Lockridge and his wife Hazel Bear Lockridge, who were, starting in the back on the left, Jack, Phyllis, and in the front, Jim and Ardith Lockridge. But let's go back to the story of their parents, Kenneth or Jonie Lockridge, and his wife, Hazel Bear Lockridge. The Lockridge family has been in North English for more than 5 generations. Kenneth or Jonie Lockridge was the son of John Wesley Lockridge and his wife, Effie Hall Lockridge. Jonie attended country school near North English before he went into the service in World War I. And here's a picture of Jonie and his fellow soldiers. In the back from the left is Unknown, and then George Wine Sr. and Jay McCombs. In the front from left are Kenneth or Jonie Lockridge, Roy Bonneter, and Calvin Cox. As told in the North English 150-year history book, according to his son Jack Lockridge, Jonie never made it past Fort Des Moines. He contracted the deadly influenza during the outbreak of 1918 and nearly died in the barracks. Here is a picture of Jonie Lockridge by himself in his World War I uniform. And here is a picture of Jonie Lockridge driving his 1916 Maxwell car. Jonie Lockridge came back to North English and married Hazel Bear, who was the daughter of John Bear and May Gregory Bear. Hazel was a country school teacher and then opened Bear's Cafe and later worked at the fair store. Jonie had first farmed with his parents and then worked as a mail carrier for the United States Post Office until they retired in 1964. And here's a picture of Jonie and Hazel Lockridge. The family moved into the house on East Washington Street, where they lived for many years, and this was later the home of their youngest son, Jim, and his family. And here are the pictures from that home on Smoky Row or East Washington Street in 1939. Here are the boys, Jack in the back, Ardith and Jim. And here's another shot of Jack in the back, Ardith and Jim. And here's a picture of the entire Jonie and Hazel Lockridge family. Phyllis, Hazel, Jonie, Jack, they're all in the back row. And in the front is Ardith and Jim. All 4 of the Lockridge children graduated from North English High School. When I knew Jonie and Hazel in the 60s and 70s, they lived in this house at 147 West Oak Street. And here is a close-up of Jonie Lockridge. Jonie Lockridge retired from his mail carrier job in 1964. This story ran in the North English Record. On August 2nd, 1920, a young fellow just home from World War I for a few months began carrying mail on Route 1 out of the North English Post Office. For the next 44 years and 2 months, Kenneth or Jonie Lockridge continued to carry the mail on Route 1. He retired September 30th, 1964. Jonie succeeded Mrs. Milo Neva Stover as carrier on Route 1 in 1920. Neva was carrying the mail for her husband Milo, who was the regular appointed carrier. During his years on the route, Jonie served under 3 postmasters, Mrs. J.D. Butler, Mrs. Hannah Lawler, and George M. Smith. Jonie says that he began carrying mail on Route 1, that most of his patrons in the Green Valley area were Longs and Wades, and in the Yankee Point area they were Carters and Claypools. Jonie drove horses on his route in bad weather until 1938. Many times when roads were muddy or snow-clogged, he would take half the route one day and the half the next. Jonie remembers that Joe Gray gave him a lot of help in getting the mail around years ago when the roads were bad. Jonie, in reminiscing, says that the mud was the worst enemy of the rural carriers back in the days of all dirt roads. Jonie and his wife Hazel plan to leave soon for Mountain Home, Arkansas, where they will spend some time at the Jack Claypool Resort. In this picture with Jonie, when he retired from his route in 1964, are other local retired mail carriers. From the back, Leon Cover, Henry or Heine Weber, Hugh Ben Butler, and Kenneth or Jonie Lockridge. Jack Lockridge, the oldest boy of Jonie and Hazel Lockridge, graduated in 1943 and was in the Navy during World War II and married Doris Smith in 1948. Jack and Doris and family lived on West Oak Street in this house.
Don't wait until you're on.
Jack worked as a cream hauler longer than any other driver at the English Valley's Cooperative Creamery, and then at Reed Oil, and then at Amanda Refrigeration. He was also an avid outdoorsman and very accomplished at archery, attending local, state, and national events. Doris Lockridge worked at the creamery, was the North English librarian, and was a longtime school secretary at the high school. Jack and Doris had 3 daughters, Jackie, who married Jim Wallace, Sherry, who married Lynn Moffett, and Susan, who married Greg Miller. Here is a picture of Jack and Doris with their 2 little girls, Jackie and Sherry, in the 1953 Creamery Picnic Parade, representing the English Valley's Cooperative Creamery. And here is a picture of the entire Jack Lockridge family in the year 2000 with all of their children and grandchildren. Phyllis, the daughter of Jonie and Hazel Lockridge, became a nurse. She married Donald Dale Beasley. Their children were Mary Kay, Brian, and Joanne. Phyllis Beasley is buried in Texas. Ardith Lockridge, the son of Hazel and Jonie Lockridge, was in the Navy after World War II. Ardith enjoyed hunting and fishing and was a longtime employee of the Milwaukee Railroad, starting out as a station agent. He and his wife, the former Mary Rose Northup, lived at Amana and were the parents of Jan Lockridge and Barry Lockridge. The youngest son of Jonie and Hazel Lockridge was James or Jim Lockridge. He graduated from North English High School in 1948 and then served in the Navy. Jim worked as a cream hauler at the English Valley's Cooperative Creamery and later as a custodian at the University of Iowa. He married Louise Smothers, who was a teacher, and they resided on East Washington Street in the same house where Jim was raised. Louise homeschooled their children, Steve, Linda, Jane, and Kay. Later in life, Louise worked with Jim at the University of Iowa as a custodian. And here is a picture of me, Jackie Geringer, Kevin Holden, Linda Lockridge, and Steve Lockridge in front of my house on East Washington Street, or Smoky Row, in the 1960s. The Jim Lockridge family donated the land for the Smoky Row Trail in the city of North English. And finally, here are the 4 children of Hazel and Jonie with their parents and her mother, May Bear, at their 50th wedding anniversary party in 1974. From left in the back, Jim, Jack, and Ardith Lockridge. And from left in the front, Phyllis Beasley, Hazel Lockridge, her mother, May Bear, and Jonie Lockridge. You might remember last week, Carolyn Elwood from the History Center board celebrated a milestone birthday. Dave Jackson mentioned that Carolyn had been a dairy princess, and sure enough, I found the evidence. Here is the article when Carolyn Warner was crowned Iowa County Dairy Princess. Our sympathy this week to the family of Naoma Hauser, who passed away at the English Valleys Care Center. She was Naoma Fern Greenlee when she graduated from North English High School in 1951. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valleys items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Nice job, Jackie.
Thank you.
Good job.